Israel's army now outnumbers Hamas by at least 10 to 1, probably more. It's hard to know exactly, but Israel figures Hamas might have 30,000 fighters. Israel, by calling up 10 times that number of reservists, has an army closer to 500,000. They are relatively well-trained.
But as far as Israel has always done a wonderful job as far as training their troops and their reservists. As soon as they landed on the ground, I can guarantee Israel is equipping them, training them, and lack for a better term, getting the rust off.
Israel has also started amassing armor at its border with Gaza. It has at its disposal hundreds of Merkava battle tanks. It's equipped with an anti-infantry machine gun that can be remote controlled from the inside. It was designed with asymmetric warfare in mind, and it's known for its ability to drive off-road. That will come in handy when deciding the approach. The Gaza Strip is one of the most densely populated parts of the planet. More than 2 million people crammed into an area of just a few hundred square kilometers. But there are large tracts of rural farmland to the north by the Erez Crossing, as well as further south, east of Gaza City. The same is true in the far south of Gaza, east of Khan Yunis and Rafah, where tanks can more freely move and take up firing positions. They've used these approaches before in the past, and they may use them again.
Tanks are a very intimidating, formidable item to use in warfare. So the idea that they're amassing there, it has a couple of things. One, they can be used as a blocking force to stop people and so forth from getting out. But at the same time, they are an incredible offensive and defensive measure. First of all, they're armored. So the idea of pushing them forward and protecting the troops on the ground is significant. The addition is the gun on the tank has a significant range with a lot of power behind it.
The other critical component of Israel's attack force is air supremacy, something it has leveraged with devastating effect for days now. From the very start, Israel's Air Force has been providing constant updates on its operations. Airstrikes on multi-story buildings, Hamas operational buildings, intelligence headquarters, banks used to fund their activities, and weapon sites, both storage and production.
What we are doing over Gaza now is striking Hamas and its military infrastructure to make sure that Hamas, at the end of this war, will not have the military ability to threaten or kill or terrorize any Israeli civilian ever again.
The airstrikes are very much a way of laying the groundwork for a ground assault, and the ability to decide not just where, but when the battle takes place is critical to Israel's overall strategy.
We started the offensive from the air. Later on, we will also come from the ground. We've been controlling the area since day 2, and we are on the offensive. It will only intensify.
And for Palestinians, the intensity of this conflict is indeed being felt. Gaza authorities say more than 1,000 civilians have been killed.
Those are children. What have they done? They're all dead, all children and women. If you're looking for the men, go and fight them.
The rest at serious risk of being starved of food, water, gas, electricity, everything.
Israel confirmed its goal is to cut the Gaza Strip off from the rest of the world.
Food shortages, water shortages. There are concerns about lack of sanitation, about sewers backing up, no access to potable water.
Israel recently received a shipment of U.S. military aid, ammunition for the fight ahead. Meanwhile, in a very real way, each day of the blockade on Gaza weakens the people subject to it. That includes Hamas fighters. Every military analyst I've heard speak on this matter agrees on at least one thing. The scale of planning required to pull off such a devastating attack on Israel, as we saw this weekend, would not have been carried out without planning for phase 2.
You got to expect that with the operation that Hamas launched and that they knew for sure because of their experiences in 2014, 2021, and elsewhere, they had a pretty good idea what Israel was going to do in response.
Hamas knows the terrain. Dense urban streets, building to building fighting. It knows where its most important assets are, will have had time to establish defensive positions, and it's all supported by a vast network of underground tunnels.
It gives a place for the enemy to hide from their perspective and to come out in different spots where they won't be able to be seen.
These tunnels can be used to hide, to travel, to communicate, and yes, to attack from surprise positions.
The interesting part about these tunnels and how complex they can be is, one, they can handle and hold many weapons and many troops. But once the IDF goes to a point, you have no idea if that tunnel pops up behind them. So you now have a 360-degree fight, not just to what's in front of you, to left and right. You now have to watch what's going on behind you all the time. So that is a complex thing that Israel needs to focus on, and that's going to be a big challenge moving forward.
Hamas fighters are also well armed. We saw this during the weekend's attack, including the use of drones to drop munitions on unsuspecting targets, which looks like this.
Oh my gosh! Okay.
Hamas is also very nimble. Guerrilla warfare works in its favor. Famously, in a single night of the 2014 war, Israel lost more than a dozen soldiers to an ambush. And according to multiple sources, Hamas is in possession of more than just guns, drones, and tunnels. They're believed to have Kornet anti-tank missiles, a Russian-made, man-portable guided rocket. It takes only 2 people to carry it, less than a minute to set up and fire.
We can expect that they have built traps, booby traps within there. They have created defensive positions. They probably have false walls. They have, bunkers and tunnels done. All of those kinds of things are going to make it extraordinarily difficult for Israel to get in there.
The presence of civilians everywhere very clearly complicates things for Israel's attacking army working to Hamas's advantage.
I can assure you that we are not looking to strike civilians. That is not our business or our aim, and it never was.
Israel's defense force has been very clear. In all cases, their goal is to strike Hamas military targets. You may have seen footage on TV or on social media that looks very much like a civilian building. What I want to tell you is that no, that isn't a civilian building. It is a legitimate military target. Hamas has a track record of using its people as shields. It embeds its leadership among them, hides equipment around them, builds tunnels underneath them, even disguises itself as them. And no matter Israel's intentions, its regard or disregard for collateral damage, civilians have already died by the thousands.
So this is going to be a bloody mess, catastrophic for the civilian population of the Palestinians, as well as the IDF fighting their way in.
This is going to be a high-risk and high-casualty producing operation.
The warfare isn't just the physical and kinetic side, it's also the information warfare. And if the Hamas starts publicly on camera killing people and saying, we'll stop this when Israel stops, that's going to start really affecting people around the world. And the longer that it goes, the more detrimental it is to Israel.
There is no way to know how this war will end, but the end isn't likely to come soon. A ground invasion of Gaza could take weeks, months, or more.